The more
so there
skin
I was.
people show you, the better it is.
Speaking of skin, there I was. Barbecue sauce on my nipples. That's the story of where I didn't lose my virginity the first time.
Oh, you didn't?
Oh, hello there. Thank you for joining us once again for this, the
97th episode of Drunk Doctor Who.
Welcome to the season finale.
The Invasion of Time. Well, finale for season 14.
And the podcast.
Wait, 15. This is the end of the 15th season.
14?
15.
15.
Yes, I opened right to it.
Man,
Yeah,
are
season 15.
we getting old? Isn't that the most satisfying thing? Just flooded with dopamine. Open a book, there it is.
Alright,
So many experiences of that at like summer camp, Bible summer camp, or in church.
Mhm.
They say turn to John 14 and then right there.
There you go.
No, just me.
Probably. Alright, the Invasion of Time.
You're never sitting there in the pews with your friends. And they say turn to this, and you have a race to see who can turn there first.
Maybe. Alright. So anyway, today is the May 30th, 2022. The number of episodes was 6.
6.
And
4.
yeah, aired
4, 6.
February 4th, 1978 to March 11th, 1978. Our companions are Leela and K9, and the antagonists are the Vardens. They pronounce it Vardens, even though it's spelled Verdens.
Like Wotan.
Like Wotan.
Votan.
And the Sontarans.
Pronounced Sontar.
Yeah, this is a 6-part serial, but it was originally a 4-part serial that was designed, I think, to be the part of the next season, not part of this season. But apparently the 6-parter that was the finale for this season was canceled for some reason. So they dragged this from the next season. They didn't have anything else that they had ready. So they dragged it from the next season and they added 2 more episodes onto it. So in the first 4 episodes, the bad guys are the Vardens. Once they're defeated, suddenly the Sontarans show up at the very end of episode 4 and go, they had their uses. And you have what's almost a completely different serial.
I'm not at all looking towards the plot summary. Now, the original season finale you said had to do with the Daleks.
I believe as such. That's
was
what my memory tells me, but my memory could be faulty.
Canceled. Do you think that has to do with like the Daleks licensing? Because that's a
I don't know.
no idea.
We can watch some of the special features on the DVD.
Oh, we could. Yeah, we never do that.
We never do that.
That's something we could do on like those 1-parter lulls when they move to hour-long episodes. Or something.
Go back and
Single
watch
episode.
special features.
Yeah, that'd be fun. Get to hear from like old companions doing the
Possibly, but
DVD commentary.
we'd have 100 DVDs to go back and do.
That would certainly fill the gaps.
I don't think there would be enough time to do all that, to watch all the special features.
What happens when we're all the way caught up to the latest episode? We just take a hiatus,
I don't know.
or we watch DVD commentary.
Or we start another channel.
In the words of Uber Danger, I'm not rolling a second World of Warcraft character because then you turn it into an infinity game. It would be an infinity podcast
Okay.
because we just loop back over.
Kinda. Alright. Anyway, but I figured we'd just watch movies along with the episodes. You know, like you'd show up, we'd watch an hour-and-a-half movie and then a 45-minute episode, you know, stuff like that. And then we talk about the episode. But we could also have the movie if we wanted.
Either or all of the above. What are we drinking today, Henry?
I am drinking Paisano wine.
Paisano.
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 And you?
Sono affamato. Da sale. L'uomo. Jack and Coke. And Twisted Tea. This is orange Jack Daniels and Coca-Cola.
And how is it with the
So
orange?
it's an orange. I prefer the vanilla Jim Beam. Oh, no, this isn't Jack Daniels. This is orange Jim Beam and Coke. I prefer the vanilla Jim Beam and Coke.
Okay.
Or just Jack and Coke.
Now here's the funniest part. the Sontarans are featured prominently on the DVD, even though there only were 2 episodes. But I guess you can't show the Shimmer that was the other guy.
The clean rap villain, the tinfoil villain. They did tack on that the Sontarans were using the Vardans.
Right, but I mean,
so they were kind of the overarching.
Right, but look at the back here. I mean, I think it would have been more interesting if they had the Sontarans on the back of the DVD in 2 of the 3 pictures.
Mm-hmm.
I think it would have been much more interesting if they just had left the Sontarans a complete surprise. Maybe put the guys after they had shown up, actually.
I guess if you're buying the DVDs, nothing's much of a surprise because it's the...
Well,
it's the big fans that buy the DVDs, and then the people that don't buy the DVDs are just watching like the streamed content on BritBox or whatever.
I mean, you've got to find that, you know?
Well, they stream all the Doctor Who episodes.
I guess so.
And then it's the next level of fandom like you that buy the DVDs.
Yeah.
Or Blu-rays. You want to try it?
No. I'm good. I'm good with the wine. No, we had a birthday party last night for Brooke's birthday, and I had enough to drink last night. So I'm going with the low octane tonight. I'm like,
Also a good choice for a 6-parter.
Yeah, a great choice for a 6-parter. I thought about, I was like, I drank too much last night. Do I want to cancel? I'm like, no, I don't want to cancel. I still want to do it. I'll just drink wine, you know?
I'm glad you didn't cancel.
Yeah, there you go.
I was wondering.
Yeah, this is more fun.
This is fun.
Right,
Happy Memorial Day.
It is Memorial Day. Happy Memorial Day. In as much as such a day can be happy. Yeah. It is dedicated to those who paid the ultimate sacrifice.
Reverent Memorial Day?
Yeah.
I'm not sure how to say it.
Reverent? Yeah. Alright, so anyway. Okay, so the serial starts out, and you don't have your usual kind of intro inside the TARDIS. The Doctor shows up.
Really starts off like right into the story. There's no
there's
no connecting point from previous serial to current serial. There's new costumes.
Well, remember, it wasn't supposed to be this season. It was supposed to be next season. So yes. I guess whatever there was, they kind of cut out.
I started off very confused.
He's like, wait, what did I miss?
Kind of works to their advantage because the plot is intentionally meant to confuse you within the first episode.
Yeah, the Doctor's not acting like his normal self throughout most of this serial.
Or he's acting like himself for the first time.
No.
I think so.
No. Anyway, so the Doctor shows up and he's on a spaceship, an alien spaceship, and he's looking at 3 large, look like rocks.
Avocados.
Well, they look like giant ass mortar shells.
I thought it was the back of the chair.
Yeah.
Which I guess it was because they're actually human?
Humanoid. Whatever.
Yeah.
They're Vardans.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, he's looking at these rocks. He's like, okay, I'm joining your cause, your great cause. And they have him sign a contract. And he's like, I'll have complete control of the Time Lords, right? And they're like, yes. He says, but it doesn't really say it here. And they're like, you have our word, yes. He signs a contract, steals the pen, which I thought was hilarious.
It was a nice pen.
It was a nice pen.
Very large and red.
Steals the pen.
Does open himself up to civil litigation with this contract that he's signing. Also, it's a verbal contract in ways.
But anyway, so they're using him and he's manipulating them. And they're trying to get him to allow him back to the Time Lords. In the meantime, K-Knight and Leela are on the TARDIS, and Leela's trying to see what's going on with the Doctor.
Leela has an outfit change, but not... I think it's the exact same outfit, but it's much lighter, like they put it in the washing machine. So it used to be a very it was like a dark brown leather scraps, and now it's a very light yellow leather scrap. Same outfit, but just different color. So I don't know if they remade it or washed it.
Finally washed
Something looks different.
And of course,
maybe that is it plot-wise, that they foster leather skins.
She tries to see what the doctor's doing. She's like, well, why couldn't I go with him? And they're like, well, Kenna's like, he told you not to. And she's like, well, but I want to see him. And she's like, why isn't the scanner working? He's like, well, the doctor turned it off. She's like, what? He doesn't trust me. It's like, wait, you just tried to do something he told you not to do.
So she knows that he doesn't trust her not to turn on the scanner. That much we know. What she's offended by is that he doesn't trust her with whatever the information is revealed by the scanner. That's the insult. He doesn't trust me to use the scanner.
The problem was anything she knew, she would have indicated back, we find out, to the Vardens. And she's a very straightforward mind, so easy to read.
Instinctual.
Yeah, the doctor he can confuse things.
It's like how Professor Xavier can't read Deadpool's mind because it's just madness. Totally chaotic.
Okay, cool. I know that.
Very abstract. At least that's how I imagine the Doctor's inner workings.
Oh, and the reading of the mind and masking things in your mind comes up during the 5th Doctor, during a serial.
The very next one? Are we on the 4th Doctor? Baker's the 4th.
Yeah, Baker's the 4th Doctor. Davison is the 5th Doctor. Yep.
Celery?
Yep, celery.
Why?
He just picks it up in his first cereal, puts it on his lapel, and leaves it.
Eventually I just have to stop asking why. How does it not wilt? Is this earth celery? You think he's just changing it out every scene for the...
They probably have to change it out every week, yeah.
I mean, plot-wise and
or
filmography-wise.
Or it's plastic, you know, I mean...
He just picks up like a plastic set of grapes and pins it to his... It's like a display fruit bowl, except with a plastic piece of celery.
Maybe. Alright.
We'll see.
Yeah, we have... This is the end of the 4th season with
Very good
the 4th Doctor. We have 3 more seasons. Next one is A Key of Time.
A lot of Baker.
Yeah, he's got the most seasons and the most episodes.
6?
Yep, 7. Most seasons, most episodes of any of the Doctors. When, especially Americans, but when most people think of the Doctor, that's who they think of.
Now, your Americans. My Americans think of... this guy.
David Tennant?
Yes.
Maybe.
My generation thinks of David Tennant as the
Well, it's who they grew up with.
Yeah. I mean, they rebooted it with this guy, but no one really watched. And then it was this guy, which...
No.
He was...
Eccleston was the 9th Doctor.
Okay. So a few people think of him. No one thinks of him.
That's the 9th Doctor.
My
That's
entire
the 10th
generation
Doctor.
thinks of Tennant.
And Matt Smith was also very popular.
Yes, he's not on here, is he?
That was the guy you just pointed at, the biggest
Oh,
one.
who comes after Tennant?
Matt Smith, the 11th Doctor.
Oh, who comes after Matt Smith?
Peter Capaldi,
That's who's
the
not
12th
here.
Doctor. Right, he and Whittaker are both not on that.
We'll get a... We'll print it out and cut it
I
out.
would love if they made stickers I could put on that poster.
Let's do it.
Yeah, I put
We can make
Capaldi
our own
on there,
stickers, yeah.
I'd leave off Whittaker. She's so bad.
What's the name of the 14th?
Shutai Gatwa.
Shutai. I forgot my...
Oh god, that bad stuff again. Whatever. Shutai Gatwa. It's NCUTI, Shutai, and GATWA, Gatwa. He's the
Something
14th.
device. Something device is what that's called.
Mnemonic.
Mnemonic device. Shutai. I won't forget it now.
Alright. It's literally how I remember it. Anyway.
I don't even know where to start with this plot summary.
Alright, so the Doctor is very much not being himself. He's being very loud, very gruff, very demanding, very entitled.
Very dehumanizing.
Yeah, so he shows up on Gallifrey, and
They declare an Amber Alert.
Amber Alert.
They go from security code green to amber because, once again, here's this mysterious TARDIS that's unaccounted for, and they don't know who's in it or piloting it. So when they arrive on Gallifrey, they're met by the Royal Guards, who look like what's his face from Futurama.
Zap Brannigan.
They look like they're all Zap Brannigan.
Well, except they have full deals. Zap just
they
has
put on
this little
pants.
tiny,
He's
full
wearing a
pants.
skirt, basically.
Basically, yeah. Anyway, so they show up in the TARDIS, and the Doctor, he comes out, and he's so on form in this serial for hilarity. He's like, what? This is an honor guard? You're pathetic. And they're like, because they were there to actually arrest him and kill him.
To be fair, they were pretty goofy in this entire show.
They were. It isn't quite Keystone Cops, but it's trying to be.
Reno 911.
Okay, so apparently, Reno 911. Apparently, they don't have much call for the cops to be incredibly, the guards to be incredibly good and efficient and professional in Gallifrey, because nobody ever gets in,
They're very reliant on their impenetrable force field.
Right.
They're impregnable force field.
So the Doctor shows up and he's like, "Oh, lead on. Follow me." Okay. And the Doctor follows, what's his name?
Andred,
Andred.
the commander of the Royal Guard.
Yeah.
So Andred's leading the way.
The Doctor's leading the way.
Following, and then the Doctor turns off to open this door, and Andred says, "You can't go in there."
That's the Chancellor's office. I know it's the Chancellor's office, but nobody can go in there and announce. Well, announce me. All right. He goes in.
Very well.
He's like, very well.
At gunpoint.
Yeah.
And then he does as the Doctor tells him to.
Right, so the Doctor goes into the Chancellor's office, Chancellor
I'm doing
Barusa.
this, but not because you told me to.
Yeah. So he goes in, Chancellor Barusa.
It's the same. We've seen Barusa before.
Yes, he was there in the Deadly Assassin. Like I said, I like Barusa.
Yeah.
And
Different actor though, right? Because
I think he's the same actor.
he might have lost
Oh
weight.
crap! Let me turn off my phone. I never went and plugged it in. Yeah, let me turn it off.
Look what's happening.
Let me turn it off.
Look up if it's the same actor.
No, I'm turning the damn thing off.
All right, look up if it's the same actor that plays Barusa.
No,
I'm pretty sure
I just realized I was like, oh no.
I'm pretty sure it's a different actor.
Enter the pin to turn off your phone.
Deadly Assassin Barusa was kind of short and chubby, and this Barusa
He might have been generated.
Oh, there you go.
All right.
He's on his 10th regeneration.
No, that was a different guy.
Surgeon General Gomer.
Mm-hmm. So, anyway, the Doctor shows up and says, "All right, I claim my right to become president of the Time Lords." And Bruce was like, "Well, wait a minute, you're not president of the Time Lords." He says, "Well, last time I was here, which was this Deadly Assassin."
You probably have to remind them what you had to remind me of.
So last time the Doctor was there, the Deadly Assassin, he, in order to not be arrested for attempting to assassinate, or for assassinating the previous president of the Time Lords, he declared he was running for president of the Time Lords, which while you're a candidate, you can't be arrested.
Which begs the question, why was there only one candidate if it's so easy to run for president?
No, there was him and there was another guy, the heir apparent.
He was the only one before the Doctor showed up.
Right, so apparently this is, nobody wants to be president, I don't know.
Undue risks or something.
Yeah, lots of risks. So,
like Assassins, apparently.
And the Matrix and everything.
Well,
so
normally the Matrix isn't so dangerous.
Right. So the Doctor, not if you're properly prepared. So
it doesn't normally reject people.
Right. So the Doctor shows
and the Master's not normally inhabiting.
Yeah. So the Doctor shows up, and he says, "Well, look, are there any other candidates running for president? Because the last time he was there, he."
So the.
So hold on, no. Hold all questions. All right. So the last time he was there, he was running for president, so he would not be arrested. And the other guy, the guy he was running against, ends up dying. The Doctor ends up saving the day from the Master, but then he just leaves. So he comes back, and apparently they've not had an election yet for another president. They haven't messed with it. So he goes, well, there's no one else. There are no other candidates. I'm president.
That's my. You put the flag up for the mailman for outgoing mail.
Yeah.
That's why I have a question.
So the doctor's like, well, I'm president, right? And Bruce says like, no.
President-elect.
President-elect. But there are no other candidates. He says, correct. So the doctor goes like, well, then let's get on with it. Let's have the induction ceremony. He says, well, I'll talk to the other chancellors. He says, no, now. And he's like, well, I have to convince him. He says, no.
Yeah, I have to assuage the other counselors. He's like, there's no need. I am president.
Right. So they actually end up having the ceremony.
Which begs the question.
Which is?
Okay, so I have a few questions.
Good, we actually got past that part I was trying to explain. Alright, what's the question?
Initially with the deadly assassin, the current president gets or was that a running mate?
No.
It was either the president or someone running for the presidency gets assassinated.
The outgoing president who was retiring gets assassinated at the beginning.
And doesn't regenerate.
Right, he doesn't regenerate, and he was either out of regenerations or got killed by something that...
It's an anti-regenerating gun.
Right. There have been indications of this previously. And you can actually choose not to regenerate, which the Master's done once. Although, of course, he always comes back anyway. And then the second guy, who was looked like the guy who he was about to say was going to take his place, which apparently
was being manipulated.
The presidency at the time, where they just hand it down to whomever. You only run if there's a complete opening. If he dies, and doesn't name a successor, that guy ends up getting killed. Yeah.
So because of time travel, we don't really know if it's a long gap or a short gap in between the deadly assassin and the invasion of time.
It's about a season and a half.
We want to assume it's a short gap because they haven't filled the presidency.
But when you live for millennia, who knows? It might have been the actual year and a half.
We also want to assume it's a long gap because in the deadly assassin, this unregistered TARDIS shows up with an unknown operator. So they meet him at gunpoint to arrest him. And that's why he runs for presidency.
Right.
And here we are again, he's the president-elect, and he shows up on his unregistered TARDIS, so they declare an hyper alert, and meet him at gunpoint, and apparently none of the Royal Guard recognize him, because it's a new guard captain and new guards, so it must be a long time he's been gone that he haven't had a president.
Yep, and it's funny, because... at the end of the serial, he just leaves, Hey, here's our president. Goodbye.
I feel like what's Bruce's
chancellor?
He's like head chancellor.
No, he's the chancellor. It's just the chancellor.
Oh, and then who are the
Castellan?
Or what do they call him? Under the chancellors,
Well, he watches over all the guards and the Castellan.
The person he says I'm going to go convince the so and so of your presidency.
Yes. Oh,
what's that?
He's
position?
a cardinal.
Cardinal.
He's a cardinal.
Cardinal.
He's like, well, I'm chancellor, and the doctor's like, well, you're not chancellor yet. He's like, well, I was ratified by the Supreme Council. He said, but they can't ratify it without the president. And he's like, well, yes, but the president was dead and the president-elect was missing. So they ratified him. He says, then you're chancellor-elect. You cannot be ratified till I'm president.
So chancellors are kind of like a vice presidency?
No, it's more like a prime minister, kind of-ish.
Oh, boy.
Some countries have both a president and a prime minister. Okay? Mm-hmm. I think France is one. And Russia's another.
The UK has a prime minister... and some other nonsense that doesn't have
any... they have prime minister and they have their royalty. Yeah. Some countries have both president and prime minister.
They have their government and then this whatever...
well, okay.
Traditional nonsense.
Alright. There are two functions of heads of state. One is executive, which is to actually run the government.
Mm-hmm.
The other is ceremonial, which is to do things for the public, to be the face of the government, and our president does both, although they relegate a lot of the ceremonial stuff to the vice president and the first lady.
There's not a whole lot of ceremonial stuff with American politics.
No, not as much, but
Also,
other countries have
The
that.
prime minister is very much a recognizable figurehead of the government. Because who doesn't recognize the prime
Right,
minister?
but infinitely more people recognize the queen.
Well, so foreign politics. Foreign ceremonial.
Right, they have more
The
ceremony.
royalty doesn't have much purpose.
Not anymore. No, no. But they do all the ceremonial stuff, and they do.
And then you go to the Vatican City and it's all ceremonial. That's all right.
Well, it's a tiny country.
So do they have citizens and then they fund the Vatican City through taxes or
No,
that
Vatican
that's
City is funded.
by foreign aid?
It's funded by donations made to the Catholic Church. When you
Foreign.
tithe as a Catholic, some of that money goes to your local parish. Some of it's going to go to your national stuff, and some of it will go to the Vatican.
This all relates to the cereal.
No,
The Time Lord's government structure is very Catholic. I keep wanting to say Catholic, but there's Catholic. It's very Catholic with the cardinals and then the ceremonial.
no, only because they have somebody
government.
called cardinals.
Well, I mean the whole government structure and the ceremonial stuff so anyway, that's why we got. That's all my questions.
All right.
Episode 1.
So Leela goes off to get an outfit. She doesn't find a good outfit. She kind of bonds with Andred.
Who's a Time Lord, right?
Yep, he's a Time Lord. Everybody inside that citadel is a Time Lord, except for Leela.
So the people outside the citadels.
Okay.
So what's the difference between a Time Lord as a race and a Gallifreyan as a race?
Time Lords are those who embrace the time travel and all that stuff. They are Gallifreyans who have taken that extra step with regenerations and all that.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of people on Gallifrey, and we see some of them in this serial, who have left that whole society, or, and it's shown later on, who never go the direction of that society, and they are just called Gallifreyans.
So Gallifrey is kind of separated in like different governments.
No, you've
Continent
got
structures,
you've got
like-
the Citadel.
So kind of like Earth in like America and the UK.
Essentially, except it's just the Citadel and outside the Citadel. It's just the two things. Yeah, it's like Washington D.C. and the rest of the country.
The rest are savages. That's what Washington.
That's what Washington D.C. thinks. That's how they believe. If only we would listen to them and do what they wanted, they could control our lives. It's very much like the Capitol and the 13 districts in Hunger Games.
Do you think Washington D.C. should be a state?
No, hell no.
Me too.
It is put in our Constitution that it is not a state, that it does not have direct voter representation, because one of the problems is that it will always vote for larger government, and that has crept into, because it's become so big, it's crept into Virginia and Maryland, the surrounding states,
Yeah.
and they will always vote for larger government. And the problem is that it's a snowball effect. No matter how many safeguards you put in the Constitution, and we've got some great safeguards, they will eventually fail.
Yeah.
And eventually the government keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and eventually becomes despotism.
Yeah.
We have literally only one or two safeguards left.
We're despot.
No, everything else has failed. All we have left is secession and revolution, pretty much.
Secession's not in the Constitution, though.
It is in the Declaration of Independence.
Well, the Declaration of Independence is a succession, but there's not a subsuccession of the succession.
No, but it says very literally in it, when men have found that the government no longer represents them, that they
Yes.
have the capability to break all ties with that government and try to form a more perfect union. And
we
can
threw
do
that out with the Civil War.
No.
Because people said, the government is no longer representative of states' freedoms, and the federal government said, like hell, you cannot succeed because a nation divided amongst itself cannot stand.
Which is why it wouldn't stand.
The
No.
succession.
No. The Civil War was literally, the theory was about state rights, but it wasn't. In the end, it was all about slavery. Without slavery, the Civil War would have ended relatively soon with two countries. The only thing worse than the Civil War, than the killing of brother against brother and all the people that died, was slavery.
Slavery was awful.
It was.
But I don't think without slavery we would have succeeded in succession with two nations.
No, the South would have, because the North would not have had the stomach to continue the war if it was not for the issue of slavery.
I disagree.
The only reason that they got past the South's early victories in the first couple of years of the war, the only reason they continued was because of slavery. Without it, there would have been a sue for peace, and there would have been a truce, and there would have been two countries.
I disagree. I think it's very much federal government versus state government.
Right.
And the northern states were very much aligned with federal government, and the southern states were very much aligned with states' freedom.
And it was very much anti-slavery for the Republican North,
the reason the North
and
won,
slavery for the Democratic South.
Yeah. No, I agree. It's good that the North won, but also the North was pretty much the federal government because they had all the funding. And when the South succeeded, they changed the currency, and they eventually lost the war due to resources. Even though they were winning and they were causing way more casualties, they lost overall because of funding, and that's what the federal government had.
Resources.
With the USD.
No, a lot of it was resources.
Absolutely.
But it was mostly the will of the North to continue, thanks to the issue of slavery. Resources played a factor, and Gettysburg played a factor.
But the war, the end of the war, did result in a loss of states' freedoms and a larger federal government.
Correct. And this was a bad thing.
Overall. Separate from the end of slavery. That's a good thing.
That was a good thing. No, but quite literally.
Obviously.
Okay, here's why there won't be a second Civil War over secession. Would you mind if California seceded from the Union?
No.
Correct. Would Californians mind if Texas seceded from the Union? No. The reason we wouldn't mind is because, okay, so let's say a whole bunch of the blue states go, we're out of here. We go, yes, we'll win all the elections. If all the red states say we're out of here, the blue will be like, yes, we win all the elections.
Sure.
Both sides believe that their theory of government is correct. Okay? And they are more than willing.
A large political divide, dichotomy in current politics.
Yes, it's gotten worse this century. But
however, none of that matters because the federal government will say no.
No, here's the problem.
They will.
The federal government says, no, we're going to send in the troops. What troops in this day and age, without an issue like slavery for which to fight, are going to go kill their brothers? They're going to go kill other people they know.
A lot of them, because the military does not employ free thinkers. The jarheads, the military beats into you. Say yes, I say jump, you say how high. They tell you whatever.
People who get up to the top are the people who can think, and those people are going to say no. That's how the Soviet Union fell. The very last time it was president actually at that point, the Soviet Union, because they switched it in the 80s. Yeah, the last time they said, okay, go out and do this. Finally, you go out and kill these people who are doing this. Finally, the general said no. There's been enough killing. This is not worth it. That's how it fell, and that's exactly why, people like us. I have family in Louisiana. I have family in Florida. I have family in Oklahoma. Yeah. I'm not going to fight against people in these states. I'm not going to.
You're not.
I'm not. No one is. It's not going to happen.
The police, right? The police are human. They have empathy, and they care about the average American citizen, right? So why is it that we have such an issue with police brutality and lack of accountability?
It is overblown significantly by a media who focuses on it for political purposes.
It's because it's a government organization that polices itself, so it has little to no accountability. So people with power abuse their power. In the
that
statement,
part's right.
Police abuse their power. So we do have a lack of accountability. So the same thing with the military, when you have this indoctrinated government power complex where it's like you don't ask questions, you just do as you're told, right? So cops don't report other cops for abusing their powers. They protect their brother in arms.
Okay.
So
all right, we swear this is about Dr. Okay.
So this is about a Gallifreyan civil war, basically.
All right, no,
so that's why we're talking about the American
There's
Civil
a
War.
national divorce coming, and divorces are messy, and divorces are not fun. But in the long run, they're usually better than not getting divorced. Okay, and that's literally what's coming down the pipe for the United States. There will be a divorce, and the red states and the blue states will go their separate ways.
I disagree. So the
Would you care to make a wager on that?
That's a very long-term wager.
It is.
What are the stakes to that wager within the next?
What
do you think the timeline on that is?
Let's say within this decade. So
this decade?
This decade. Sometime within this decade.
Soon, Hatter.
There will be at least one state that leaves the union within this decade.
Successfully or attempts to?
Successfully.
I disagree.
And what would you care to leave?
I have no idea what this is. You have to go live in that state.
No, I don't. I'm going to stay here in
That's
Texas because we're going to leave.
Because that's the one that's going to leave.
No, it's very possible that the left coast will
I
leave.
do think Texas would be the first one to attempt to leave the union because we have our own National Guard and our own military and our own power grid and our own...
No, we are the most likely for those very reasons.
I think Texas would be the first to attempt to leave. It's not going to be allowed to.
I disagree on that one.
So what are the stakes for this?
No.
Again, you said 10 years. That is very soon.
Within this decade.
This decade?
This decade.
So before 2030. So that's 8 years. That's even sooner.
Before, right. So sometime here in the 2020s.
That is soon. I'm confident. I'm not going to lose this bet.
You want to bet? You want to wager a handle?
I guess that's very low stakes for a decade long bet.
It is.
I don't know what to. How about we make the bet and then we discuss the. I don't even know. Sure, a handle at the least.
Right, for right now, it's a handle.
For right now.
Okay, it's a handle.
At some point
this decade,
we'll make it more interesting.
there's a national divorce coming.
Yeah. I don't think it's going to be this decade. I do think eventually there will be an attempted succession, and it will be met with
The most likely state to secede
is Texas.
Well, the most likely states: Texas, California, Alaska.
California doesn't want to be its own state; it wants to be its own blue group of states.
Well, no, California.
I don't think California would
California's
want to be
been a
its
bit
own.
of a leader. No, the whole left coast would go. California, Oregon,
Nevada?
Washington. No, just the coast.
Northwest.
They would go. The ones on the Pacific Ocean. Alaska's a good candidate.
I mean, they have a great GDP.
New Hampshire, oddly enough.
And Maine.
No.
That's how the song always ends when you're singing the states.
Oh.
New Hampshire and Maine.
No.
I always wanted to go to Maine and get a lobster.
All right. And long shot with Hawaii.
Really? You think Hawaii's on the...
Hawaii was a kingdom before we made it a state.
But it's not like a really liberal state.
Yes, Hawaii is a very liberal state. Hawaii is a very liberal state. If Texas
It's not like... I mean, it's like a 60-40.
No, it's very liberal. If Texas goes a good chunk all the way from the Mexico border to the Canadian border are all going to go.
Hawaii does hate tourism. So,
they live by it, but they hate... Here's the thing. Everyone...
It's a big part of their cost, and it's a big part of... because of their income. It's their income and their...
I know, it's like the people who are like in those Florida cities where the Fort Lauderdale and places where the cruise ships would go into.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, we hate the cruise ships. They destroy our towns. It's like, most of your income is derived from these cruise ships and these people showing up.
Yeah.
And you've got most of the towns like, yes, we want the cruise ships. We've got some people like, no, we hate it. It's not worth it. It's like, how in the world is tourism money and commerce not worth it?
When I say Hawaii hates tourism, it's they like tourism. They hate like vacation homes and the millionaires purchasing up the real estate in Hawaii, because Hawaiian real estate is very limited, and these people coming in to purchase homes in Hawaii are pushing. It's a gentrification. It's pushing the native Hawaiians
Well,
out.
it happens in most places.
Yes,
I mean, here in Texas, we don't like all these liberals coming from liberal states and buying up land, mostly in Austin, in the surrounding area, and making it too expensive to live there. But that happens everywhere.
Native Americans have reservations. Native Hawaiians don't have reservations.
I don't think so. I think you're right. I think you're right.
So
I don't think
millionaires purchasing up real estate in Hawaii is pushing the native population out of their homes.
Right, but there's a lot of people who have been pushed out of a lot of what you would call ancestral homes. You know, some of them.
No one likes change.
Well, yeah. So some of them were taken away from their ancestral homes, brought here as slaves, both white and black people. Some people were forced out of their homes, like the Trail of Tears, Andrew Jackson and all that. Once again, Democrat.
Terrible president, great hairdo though. You see the $20 bill?
Horrible president.
Great hairdo though. I love Andrew Jackson's hair.
He had good hair. All right.
It's before his time.
All right. But in the end, you can try to get back to it, you know? But there's only so much you can do. I mean, it's like if New Orleans got incredibly stupidly expensive and I couldn't go live there in my old age, I don't necessarily want to, but let's say I did, I would probably just like that. But
I mean, that's the
all you can do is try to get more money to buy a place, you know? Or find somewhere else like Lubbock here where I like better.
Now they know where we live, Hatter. You just doxed us on the internet.
Hi. Okay.
I think we said Lubbock.
Yeah, we have before. Okay. All right, so this is going to be a 2-hour podcast. And half an hour of it's going to actually be about the cereal.
We're almost done.
We're almost done with the first episode of 6.
It all relates.
Okay.
It's all on topic.
All right. Anyway, so the doctor demands to have the induction ceremony immediately. They have the ceremony. It's held in the Panopticon, which we previously saw in The Deadly Assassin. You get a bunch of people talking, yada yada. Like, it's not. There wasn't any media there like there was in The Deadly Assassin. Remember that guy?
True,
yeah.
It was.
But it was so very prompt
immediate,
too.
yeah.
So they go there and he gets inducted. He's given the Sash of Rassilon, the Rod of Rassilon. He has to promise to search for the Great Key of Rassilon. Literally, they have a ceremonial pillow for the Great Key, and there's nothing on it. You even are supposed to reach for it, but there's nothing there.
But there is the crown that connects you to the Matrix.
Right, the coronet. So they give him the crown, and
There's corn in it?
no, coronet. And the whole thing is that you're supposed to be prepared to interface with the Matrix.
Yes.
You're supposed to be prepared and ready beforehand.
Yes.
But he knows about all the risks and accepts them. They put the coronet on his head, and he ends up falling down, right? He goes to his knees, and then kind of to the side, and he's barely holding it. Look, you don't know if he's dying or not. End of episode 1.
Barusa's, okay, so on to episode 2, the penultimate episode. Barusa's very upset by the doctor's headache when he puts on the crown and connects to the Matrix, because he says that the Matrix has rejected him as a president, and that is unheard of, and it's sacrilege. And then they say, well, no, he was a self-induced kind of coma as a defense mechanism. And Leela sees him struggling as he's interfacing with the Matrix, and she breaks free and runs over to his aid. And for some reason, Barusa... Is it Barusa?
Barusa.
It is Barusa who says that she attacked...
Yeah, essentially there's some panic and some chaos.
Some witch hunting going on. Like, why is this happening? This is also strange.
Now, this entire time the Doctor's not quite been himself. He's been very gruff, been very angry, been very...
contradictory.
Right. And
Follow me, stay there.
Yeah, and you can tell that he's not quite himself, okay? So the Surgeon General comes up, and the Surgeon General's like, okay, this is bad. Did you get his name? Gomer? Let's go.
Gomer.
All right. So the Surgeon General's like, okay, you guys quit quibbling over whether or not he's the president, because they were arguing. Get him into the infirmary, which they do. And the Surgeon General looks at him. Okay, in the meantime, in the first episode, the Doctor had told Barusa and what's the Lickspittle's name?
The chief of security is named something. Castellan Kellner.
Castellan Kellner. This guy is the... if you've ever seen Lord of the Rings... He is basically, what's the guy that has the ear?
Yeah.
What's his name?
Something, tongue, snake, serpent, fork. I don't know. Jaundice. It'll come to me.
Yeah.
Quick, look at
it's
it on your phone.
No, it's off. I turn my phone off. It's basically that guy, the purest lickspittle, the bootlicker who will help out anybody to get himself ahead no matter how many people he kills in the process.
I don't know.
Grimer Wormtongue.
Wormtongue.
Yeah, Grimer Wormtongue.
There's a book series called... Oh no, I'm thinking of Screw Tape. Not Wormtongue.
Screw Tape Letters.
Yeah.
That is C.S. Lewis.
Great author.
Yeah.
Arnold.
Good. Yeah, it is your turn. Alright, so anyway, the Doctor is like, okay, he had told Castellan to refurbish his quarters. And he told, not the Colonel, what's his name? Chancellor. He told the Chancellor, Barusa, to line the entire thing, his quarters, doors, walls, ceilings, floors, everything with thick lead.
Is there like a...
Basically creating a Faraday cage.
You hear about the 5G Faraday cages that they're scamming old people into buying to put on their internet routers to protect them from the government's 5G?
No.
Is there like a statute of limitations on a pawn moving 2 spaces on its first move? Like you can do that at any point as long as it's that pawn's first move?
Yes.
Okay, so this one I haven't moved yet. I can move him
Correct.
2 spaces?
You can move him 2 spaces.
Okay. That's probably a bad idea, but I'm going to do that.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, wait.
Yeah. That's what I'm
Okay. That is a legal move.
Not today.
Yeah. Alright.
That's illegal.
That is a legal move.
Something. Where were we on the plot center? Okay, so they made the Faraday cage, which is the Doctor goes on and on about how he wants lead,
exactly.
Panels from floor to ceiling.
Right, and the ceiling and the floor and the doors and everything. Anyway, so
they do it.
So we're in episode 2.
Yes.
The Doctor recovers from going into his catatonic, self-induced state by the coronet. He orders that Leela be thrown out of the Citadel.
Yes.
Leela manages to escape the guards because once again they've never really had to deal with people. They're just they use their force field defenses.
And because of plot armor and stage direction.
Right, and she's more of a warrior than they are. Anyway, so she escapes. They're looking for her. She makes her way into what turns out to be a control room for traffic going in and around the Gallifreyan area. Space traffic. And Leela is talking to this lady on the inside. What's her name?
Leela meets Rodan. Who's
very
pretty.
She is. I thought Rodan was that turtle in Godzilla.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
The spike-back turtle that Godzilla uses as a mace.
Yeah. Oh, man.
This Rodan is a lot more pretty than that one. Alright, so she is doing her air traffic control stuff, and she's confirmed. It's kind of like a command tower at an airport or whatever.
Yeah, essentially.
And Leela runs into this room to hide, and then she notices Rodan sitting at this control panel, and and then Rodan notices Leela, and they kind of have this weird. So Rodan is very relaxed and chill and doesn't care at all about Leela. Leela's really stressed out because she's been running from the guards, and she goes, "You're not going to report me?" And she says, "Why should I? There's
their problem.
Force field between us." And she's like, "Aren't you concerned?" She's like, "That's not my business. I don't care."
So they talk back and forth and banter for a while, and finally, Rodan actually lets her in.
She said, "I knew I'd like you," and she opens
drops
the force field.
And Leela's apparently like leaning on the force field, and then it's no longer there. She goes in. Okay, so no, I haven't moved.
Oh, okay.
In the meantime, the doctor. Okay.
So the doctor recovers from his catatonic state. He realizes that Barusa, out of his paranoia, posted 2 guards at the front, so he's looking for a secret exit, which he finds behind a curtain. But it's locked, and it's locked that the sonic screwdriver
can't get him out.
Get around.
And he even looks at the camera and goes, "Not even the sonic screwdriver will get me out of this one." He figures out
one of 2 fourth wall breaks.
Yep. He figures out that it is actually there's about 3 or 4. He figures out that it's voice activated, and the code is there's nothing more useless than a
locked door with a voice.
Imprint? Locked door with a voice imprint, or locked door with a
voice something
activation or something. And
this is the first time we've had a fourth wall break, really, since Hartnell. Who broke it?
No, remember when the doctor gets out of the TARDIS in the face of evil? He doesn't have a companion.
Oh, and
he looks at the camera and talks
about,
as if he would be talking to a companion.
Woe is me.
Yeah.
Okay.
What did I do? Okay. Alright. You go to the restroom?
No, I'm just looking at the board.
Alright, so anyway, the doctor sneaks out. The doctor goes around, he does stuff. He is attempting to take down there's a force shield on the inside protecting the Gallifreyan Citadel. Outside of that, what's it called? The big harmonic thingy or whatever?
No idea.
The first thing they take down.
No idea.
Okay. The waveform, whatever.
I just thought it was the one force field. And
there was an inside force field, and there was the one on the outside. The first one gets taken.
The wavelength one.
Yeah, the waveform.
Physical barrier.
Yeah. So, the doctor manages to get back to his TARDIS, and he instructs K9 to go blow up these deals. K9 heads out. The doctor goes and sneaks back into his place where he's supposed to be. Then K9's shown going around. He zaps a couple people, but they're just stunned. K9 goes down into the bowels of the place. Very, very, very industrial looking down there. And he zaps these couple of control panels which take down the waveform barrier or whatever. In the meantime, the doctor has instructed Barusa to immediately call a council of the Time Lords, the Supreme Council. And so Barusa's getting that together, and then the doctor is like, okay, so we're going to meet there. And then the barrier comes down, and what's her face, Rodan, puts him on red alert. He says, "Okay, red alert. The waveform barrier's down, and we're being invaded because there was a ship coming directly at them, and that ship has the Vardens." So
she calls to the head of security, Castellan, who's not responding because he's at this head meeting of the
Time Lords Supreme Council, which apparently includes the Castellan and the Chancellor. So the Doctor gets into the meeting and he gets up on the dais where he was inducted, and he's like, "Okay, Time Lords, I'm here to show you your new masters." And
maniacal laugh.
Yeah, maniacal laugh. Anyway, so these three shimmering shapes show up, and the Doctor laughs maniacally. End of episode 2. Episode 3, the Doctor tells the Supreme Council of Time Lords they're basically disbanded. He tells Borusa that the Constitution is basically put on hold. It's turned off for the moment. The Doctor's completely taking over. And the Castellan is watching all this, figuring things out. He's such a lickspittle, and he's so willing to go with anyone that will help him get ahead. And he's trying to figure out everything that's going on. And so the Doctor is like, "Look, I did what you asked me to. I got rid of the waveform barrier because these people can travel along any wavelength." He's like, "All right." And they're like, "Okay, well, we're just getting started. We want you to take down the force field." And the Doctor's like, "The force field?" And they're like, "Yeah, we can't materialize, so you take down the force field. We need to get our ship through and materialize." He's like, "Okay." He tries to explain it can't happen. They insist it happens. He goes, "Okay, well, there might be a way." And then he ends up meeting Borusa in his room. And there's all these really cool gears and stuff all along the walls. And that's all the lead that was put there. And the Doctor's there, and he's like, "Oh." And he explains to Borusa what's going on. And Borusa's like, "Oh, so that's why you were such a jerk." And the Doctor's like, "Yes." And so the Doctor explains to him that he has been playing the Vardens, and they can, since they travel on wavelengths and waveforms, they can read your brainwaves. They can read your thoughts. So the Doctor has had to compartmentalize his thoughts and keep other thoughts in his head, like trying to keep out a mind reader by just singing a song in your head, well, or keeping some big loud thought in there while you were shoving everything else down. And that's why he's been so out of sorts.
Also, he has to convince the Vardens that he's toppling.
Well, then that he's on their side.
Yeah.
They don't believe him. They suspect that he's already gone the other route.
But he doesn't suspect that they suspect him.
Correct. So anyway, lots of palace intrigue, lots of palace revolution type stuff going on. Leela and Rodan are like, "Well, let's get the heck out of here." Leela's like, "The Doctor must have wanted me outside for some reason."
Rodan's the bird.
Okay, the bird.
Yeah.
Alright.
And Godzilla.
Alright.
The spike-back turtle thing's named something else.
Okay, Gamera.
That's the one.
So Leela and the bird Rodan. But
I didn't know you were such a Godzilla aficionado.
he's had more movies than James Bond.
It's true. The character in the most films ever.
Mm-hmm. These days, that might be Sherlock Holmes.
I don't think so. I think it's still Godzilla.
You may be right. I don't know. But anyway, so I know at one point that was true, but the things that have hit public domain, like Alice in Wonderland and Sherlock Holmes and other stuff like that, I think
Still Godzilla.
still goes up.
Still Godzilla. And the most films.
Let me consider that statement.
Let me know. I'm gonna be down 2 handles.
Only one you have
One
to pay
now,
soon.
one 10
One,
years.
8 years from now. Yeah.
It's gonna
Alright. So anyway,
we start making multiple bets. We'll get them confused. When was Godzilla succeeding from tech?
but we have video evidence, which will be used in my trials.
Like we'll ever be able to dig through our library of videos and pinpoint one. Like if we went back to try to find one thing, we would never.
Well, it's like that bet we made a couple weeks ago. I only remembered it from watching the video. I'd forgotten about it because I was too drunk. And then I watched the video. I'm like, oh yeah, we made that bet. Oh yeah, I was right.
Which bet was that?
It was the one about whether or not Leela got shot first by the happy cannon.
Oh, that was all same night. That wasn't later when you watched the podcast. Oh, you didn't remember?
I didn't remember that.
So
I
if
drunk
you
enough, I
hadn't
didn't
watched the
remember that.
podcast, you'd be very confused when I showed up.
Yeah, we've been like, oh, thank you. But I watched the podcast and I went, oh yeah, we made that bet. Oh yeah, I was right. And then you're like,
were right.
So anyway, so the doctor tells Bruce everything. Bruce is like, okay. And
so if you get really toasty, and I tell you that you made a bet that you lost, would you?
I don't watch the
You
video.
wouldn't remember. It took you a very long time to concede the Star Wars bet, which was the only one.
You were right. I had to triple check that because I swore I was right. I'm usually right. I was not right on that. All right. Anyway, so
We usually let him think he's right. Joking. Just kidding.
So the doctor is plotting against the Vardens. He's trying to get them to show up in their true physical form so he can figure out what planet they're from so he can send them back.
Haven't I earned some
And-
trust at this point?
Yeah.
Have a jelly baby.
Have a jelly baby. And so he can time loop their planet so they can't get out and invade the Time Lords.
Doesn't make any sense.
Anyway, so he's trying to do that. The Vardens are they're plotting against the Doctor with
Plots and subplots.
with
Castellan Kelder.
with Castellan Kelder.
Think of cast iron.
Yeah, and Kelder's like working with him against the Doctor, and Kelder's like being a bad despot. He's settling old scores. He
I
starts.
love his character.
Oh, he
He
starts.
is so good at playing this role.
He starts throwing people out of. They start throwing people out into the outside, and they'd already gotten Rodan and Leela had already gone outside.
And then they got Gomar, the Surgeon General.
Yeah, Gomer. They send him out. They start sending all these old Time Lords outside, and they end up meeting up with this tribe of Gallifreyans, who used to be Time Lords, decided screw that, and they went out to nature, and apparently they didn't have bows. They'd forgotten how bows work. So
No, they had bows, but like the Time Lords didn't know how bows work.
Leela makes a bow and shows them how bows and arrows work.
They were only using spears.
Yeah, remember they throw the spear at first. And then Leela shows them how bows and arrows work. So,
You think, how long have they left the Citadel? You think they'd have some sort of non-Time Lord society set up at some point? They would figure out how to make a straw hut or something.
well, and in the newer stuff, they show people outside who are more rustic, who are
More
not...
advanced.
Well, no. Yeah, more advanced than those guys.
Like from the Stone Ages to like the...
But they're not like Time Lord civilization.
Right.
They're much more rustic, and they're more medieval-esque, or maybe
Age
Age of Reason or something.
Yeah.
Right. Renaissance-ish.
That's post-Kings. Renaissance is like chemistry. Kings. Third. Castle Age.
Oh yeah. Anyway, so
That's not historical, that's from Age of Empires.
Okay.
Which I think is historical. I think Age of Empires goes by like the actual ages that they.
All right. So
What age are we in now?
now?
Class?
No.
Space age?
Yeah, we're in the space age. That's usually
Not
what
quite.
this is
I
called.
wouldn't consider this the space age.
It's also called the information age.
There you go. Yeah. This is like the preamble to the space age. Which
No.
I think society is going to collapse before we get there.
The space age began in the 60s.
Well, we got into space, if that's how you qualify
Yeah.
an age.
Yeah.
I consider an age by its wide adoption. It's not the first castle was the castle age. It's when there are several castles was the castle age. We're at the beginning of the space age. Ages are getting a lot longer than they used to be.
Yeah, they're getting shorter.
Shorter.
Things happen more quickly now.
Nah. I think society's going to collapse before we get to Mars.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Wait, talking about human beings? Because we've got like rovers on Mars.
I mean, like, you know, anything that Elon Musk is. People say, like, the next couple of generations we're going to have a base on Mars. Like,
It's doable. We can grow
we're going to
potatoes.
nuke ourselves back into the dark ages before we get there.
I'd pray not. Alright. Alright, I'm going to go use the restroom and get a refresher on my drink.
Oh, boy.
Alright,
So
we're
episode
in episode 3.
Halfway through.
Alright, so you've got the people on the outside doing all their stuff.
They're shooting bows.
You have the intrigue inside the Citadel, and you have the doctor is finally explaining to Barusa what's going on. And he's working against the Vardens. Alright,
So-
see if you can get us to the Sontarans.
So Leela is working with Nesbin, the chief of the Gallifreyans, and she shows him how to make bows and shoot bows, and she says, we can stage an attack on the Citadel to throw out these invading Vardens, the Verdens, and rescue my friend the Doctor, and Nesbin is not convinced, so she looses a second arrow, second bullseye. She says, we can fight them. He goes, okay, we can do this. And then they give the bow to the Surgeon General Gomar, and he can't even, like, pull back the drawstring. Like, the pull poundage is too... You know, he's he's on his 10th generation. He's very old, and Nesbin says this is hopeless. We can't throw out these invaders with bows and arrows. And Leela says, "You know what? You're right, but we can probably at least rescue the Doctor, and I know he has a plan." And Nesbin, the chief of the non-Time Lord Gallifreyan, says, well, what is his plan? And Leela says, I have no idea, but he always has a plan. So then we transition back into the Citadel. We have the Doctor talking with Barusa, and then we have Castellan kind of licking the boots of the Verdun, and he's setting up his episode 3. All right, so you see Castellan. He's not only like a yes man bootlicker. He kind of has his own aspirations of power. So he's setting up his subguard, which only answers to him, and he is suspicious of the Doctor, and he wants to overthrow the Doctor as the president of the Time Lords. So he's putting together his own guard, and he's skeptical of the Doctor's motivations and Andrid. So he puts together his own elite guard, and he says, you know, stick with the Doctor. You're going to guard the Doctor, and, you know, time comes, maybe you don't guard the Doctor. So I never got his name. He's not around for long, spoiler. So this guard and his 4 other, you know, bodyguards are following the Doctor around, and the Doctor goes to his TARDIS, and this guy tries to follow the Doctor into his TARDIS, and the Doctor says, no, you stay here. And this new guard captain says, no, I must follow you at all times, says Castellan, and the Doctor says, I'm the president. And this guard says, Castellan will shoot me. And then the Doctor says, well, I'll shoot Castellan then, so you stay out here. So, and he goes. Meanwhile, we have Andrid, who just had this conversation with the Surgeon General Gomar before he threw him out of the Citadel.
about how he's, against this this very anti-Time Lord kind of shift in their entire society, where the Verdans came in and how the Doctor took over and they're overthrowing the Constitution. So Andred and his guards are very against this, and they say, well, we're going to assassinate the Doctor, who's the new president, and we're going to throw out the invaders. We're going to seize control again. So Andred and his group of guards come up to the TARDIS, and they run into this other guy, and I'm pretty sure he dies. Yeah, they shoot him. And for some reason, Andred goes into the TARDIS by himself and leaves the other 4 guards outside to guard. So Andred confronts the Doctor, and they have this conversation about, the Doctor says, Andred says, I sentence you to death because you've betrayed all Time Lords. And the Doctor says, that's nice. K9 zap him real quick for me. So K9 zaps Andred. He passes out. The real reason the Doctor's in the TARDIS is because he's hooking up the K9 to the Matrix to try to get a lock on the Verdans' home planet so that they can, that thing Natter was talking about, stick him in a time loop. So to repel their invasion, it doesn't really make sense, but as Hatter says, don't ask questions. Sci-fi, it makes sense. It doesn't make sense. So the reason he has to hook K9 up to the Matrix is because the Verdans are now kind of invaded into the Matrix, and of course they read all wavelengths, and they can teleport across wavelengths. So if the Doctor were to enter the Matrix, they could read his thoughts and his subconscious. So that's why he has K9, a machine, a robot who doesn't have a brain, hooked up to the Matrix, trying to lock in on their home location. But he can't really do that until he materializes. So at this point, Andred wakes back up and he says, I'm still going to shoot you. And the Doctor says, well, your staser isn't going to work in here because of the relative...
Because of the interdimensional stabilizer field.
Yeah, that thing.
Episode 4?
So Andred said... Yeah, episode 4. Episode 3 ended when Andred confronted the Doctor with death. So, and then he got zapped by K9. So after Andred wakes back up, he pulls his gun out again, and it doesn't work because of the so-and-so field.
Right.
And so Andred says, well, you're still stuck in here because you will die because my men have you surrounded. And the Doctor says, that's nice. Tally-ho. And he leaves the TARDIS.
In the meantime, the guards...
I never got his name. The new guard, the castle and stuff.
It doesn't matter.
We talked about it.
Alright.
Yeah, they're outside the TARDIS, and we have this this confrontation between the old guard, who are loyal to the Time Lords' original society, and then Castellan's new guard, who's loyal to just Castellan.
Right. So Castellan's guards, who want to protect the Doctor, at least for now, manage to show up and kill all of the guards who were there with Andred. How many deaths were there in this serial?
Including Sontarans. Spoiler, Sontarans. 15. I think.
So it starts out really slow, and then in episodes 3, 4,
really
5 it gets really fast. Alright.
I thought the first 4 episodes were perfectly paced.
Well, it's about the deaths. The death rate, yeah. Alright, so anyway, so the Doctor shows up, he goes outside, and there's the guards who are loyal to him. And he goes back inside, he's like, your guards are gonna kill me, right? The Doctor explains to Andred that he is working against the Vardans. He knew about the plot the Vardans had to steal the Time Lord technology, and he is working against them by being their guy on the inside to stop them. And so Andred believes him, and eventually he gives Andred a mission along with K9.
Where do Time Lord babies come from?
We've discussed this before.
I don't remember. I guess I was drunk.
All right. Okay.
Because we only see one female Time Lord, which is Rodan, and then we see a couple of female Gallifreyans.
And we've seen female Time Lords in other stuff. Like one was not the was it the Chancellor or no? One was somebody else on the High Council, Supreme Council.
Oh yeah.
And the Deadly
older
Assassin, yeah, older lady.
I wish Rodan would be a companion.
But if you notice, the vast majority of the Time Lords, everyone we see, are male.
Yes.
Only Rodan
Very
is female.
patriarchal society.
Well, the question is do they choose to regenerate into men or...
Yeah, are they like the frogs that are kind of gender fluid, that change genders depending on...
according to modern Doctor Who, kind of.
How do they how do they procreate?
Alright, according to the books...
Books? You read the books?
No.
Oh, okay.
I'm not going to read the books. I hate multiple medium forms.
Me too. That's why I
just
hate
give
the
me
whole
one.
Disney Place thing.
Yeah. But according to the books, they are created from looms.
Like caterpillars?
No. Their DNA is woven on looms like carpets.
So where do they come from?
Okay.
That's how they naturally reproduce?
No, nobody knows.
Okay.
It's not specified anywhere in Doctor Who.
So they take
but
a
you
strand
believe
of
there's
DNA and do the...
according to one of the books, yeah. But according to the show, there's no clue.
Never mentioned.
It's never mentioned. You see at one point the Doctor's mother and father.
Do we ever?
So you believe that they are naturally created through sex.
They're
and
the
birth and all
ones that wove the...
No.
Do we ever see a child Time Lord? Like a kid?
We
Adolescent?
We see the Doctor when he's young. We see the Master when he's young. We do, and in the modern stuff, we do see a lot of Time Lords and Gallifreyans who are children. Yes.
Cool. That was my question.
Okay. All right. So the Doctor decides the only way to get the Vardens to completely trust him. Did you cover that? Is to turn off the force field, make a hole in the force field.
Mm-hmm.
He makes a hole in the force field. The Vardens come in, and they actually show up in their true form, and they look like human beings.
And yes,
Yeah. So then the Doctor's like,
Alila goes, "That's it. They're just human."
yeah, they're just humans.
That's episode
It's,
4.
Yeah, I think it's 4.
Later in 4. Okay, we're in 4 now.
Yeah. So the Doctor then says, "Look, okay, I'm gonna go do this." He runs off. And he's got one of the guys following him. He locks that guy out of the room with the lead lining. And this is where Leela and Rodan and the guys on the outside decide to go inside and help the Doctor. They end up forming 2 groups that come in on different sides of the Citadel. Apparently there's this giant city, this giant Citadel, and there's maybe, it looks like 25 people living in it. I mean,
0 establishing shots. Interior only.
Correct.
Wouldn't Rodan be a cool companion?
Yeah, she's fairly like Romana,
And pretty.
the first Romana. Yeah.
Is Romana pretty?
The first one's... Okay, the first one is classically pretty. The second one is just beautiful.
Do you think
I
if
had
I
such a crush on her as a kid.
you think if I email Rodan and ask her to be my girlfriend, she'll say yes?
At this point, she would have to be about 75 years old. This was 1978. Okay, so it's 45 years on. She's got to be about 75 years old.
Where do I get me one of those TARDISes?
Gallifrey.
You never saw it in game Infinity War Part 2?
No.
Okay.
I like the way the first one
There's
ended.
not a reference I can make then.
Okay, I like the way the first one ended. I was done. Alright, so the Doctor's trying to, now that they've actually manifested themselves, he's trying to figure out where the Vardens are
I'm
from.
just catching up on my questions. My question for episode 3 was just Rodan is pretty.
It's not a question, but okay. So the Doctor's trying to figure out where they're from. he gets K9. He gives K9 the sash, the scepter, and the coronet. K9 figures out where they come from. K9 is then able to block that particular frequency. In the meantime, the Rodents are trying to break down the door into the Doctor's area. The Gallifreyans and Leela and Rodan manage to meet. They kill the guards, and then they manage to get in right as K9's figuring everything out. He sends the Vardens back, and
Did they break in?
the Doctor lets them in.
Okay.
They were trying to get in, but the Doctor lets them in. Or he tells, actually, Arden? What's his name?
Barusa? Oh, Andrew.
Andrew.
Yeah.
Tells Andrew to let them in. Andrew does.
I remember now.
So then the Doctor goes to the Panopticon. He's like, look, it was a hard road, it was a tough road, but finally the future of Gallifrey is assured. And as he's saying this, everyone's looking kind of off to the side of him. And he looks at them, and he looks at where they're looking, and they're Sontarans. End of episode 4.
Sontarans.
Yep. So this is where the Sontarans got added to the 4-parter to make it a 6-parter.
This is the end of the serial. Recap's over.
No. It's the end of what would have. It's where the serial would have ended.
We can go ahead and end it there.
Yeah.
So
All right.
during episode 4,
Huh?
the whole serial really, we see K9 being very much a writer's plot point, a way to tie up loose ends. K9 is a powerhouse of characters.
Yes, he's so
every
good.
serial he's been in, including this one, he was very influential over the plot and the whole success story of fighting back the Vardens. At some point, the Doctor refers to K9 as his second best friend.
Mm-hmm. You're assuming that Leela is the first best friend. It might be the TARDIS. You don't know. But he says second best friend.
So we don't know who the first best friend is. If it is Leela, that means the Doctor's very much an in-the-moment person.
It's probably the TARDIS.
Who values his current companion, so he's probably referring to the TARDIS.
No, he's probably referring to Leela.
Leela, yeah. Which means he lives in the moment.
Yeah.
Because he values his previous companions as much as he valued Leela, you would think.
Yeah.
Which means she wouldn't be his first best friend.
Well,
But
he
he's
is at
talking in the
time.
present tense.
Yes,
Yeah, this is currently K9 is currently is his second companion. Okay, that was my only question.
Because Leela came on before K9.
Yeah.
All right. So
Also, she's a person.
yeah, not too much more before him, but just a little. All right. So then the Doctor's like, okay. The Sontarans are like, who's the Doctor? And he's like, I don't know. I'm just the president of Time Lords.
Sure.
Well, that fits the description of the Doctor. He's like, well, I can't help that.
That's not my fault.
Yeah. So.
The Sontarans announced that they were working with the Verdans.
Oh yeah, the Verdans were so helpful and useful, but we were the puppet masters behind them.
So we have no idea where the Vardans came from.
Varden.
Vardans.
Yeah.
The Varden. But they're referred to as human. Are they human? They're
No.
human-like. They're humanoids. Which, so are the Time Lords, though.
Yeah.
So when Leela sees them corporealize into humanoids, she goes, that's it? That's
Yeah.
and the Doctor says, disappointing, aren't they?
Yeah.
Referring to humans. But if he's referring to just a humanoid visage, he'd also be referring to Time Lords because they look exactly the same.
Right, but
Which implies that they are humans?
no.
Okay. Do we ever see the Vardans again?
No.
So their origins never explained. It's never explained how they
Nope. They
traveled
were
through
bad guy of
ages.
the week, or bad guy of the serial.
So confused.
Okay. So the Sontarans show up, and the Sontarans are like, okay, we need to destroy the Doctor. He's too dangerous. And they don't know what he looks like. The Doctor's like, well, I'm the president of the Time Lords, So the Doctor manages to get away with several of the companions, and they keep going along The Doctor's trying to get them back to get Barusa. So they go and they get Barusa, and see you in a minute. Or two, or three. So they go, they get Barusa, and the Barusa's like, well, it's about time you made it. Barusa's holding a phaser, and the Doctor's like, and they're back in the Doctor's quarters with the lead walls and everything. And Barusa's like, this isn't for you. The Doctor's like, you're holding a gun on me, you're gonna kill me? He's like, it's not for you, it's for all these. The Doctor's like, well, I'm gonna vouch for him. He's like, everybody? He said, yeah, everybody. Bruce was like, okay. Then the Sontarans show up, figuring out the Doctor's a doctor, and they try to knock the door down, but they can't. The Doctor and Barusa escape into Barusa's quarters through the little secret passageway that I'm not sure if we've mentioned before, the secret passageway between the Doctor's quarters and Barusa's quarters. And then the Doctor confronts Barusa after he sends everyone else off. He says, look, you're the Castellan. I am the president. One of the things I had to swear to was to look for the Great Key. The Great Key of Rassilon. He says, and where would you hide a tree but a forest? Because there's this rack of keys behind Castellan. And the Doctor's like, I will kill you if you don't give this to me, because I cannot allow that key to fall into the hands of the Sontarans. Bruce was like, okay, you don't have to kill me. Here's the key. Doctor looks at the key, gives him, tosses it away. And then Barusa says, okay. He reaches down and he pulls a key out of a drawer that we'd seen him use earlier to open that drawer. So the Great Key also is a key to this drawer. And he hands it to the Doctor. And the Doctor looks at it, and Bruce is like, you are the first president since time immemorial to hold the Great Key. So apparently Rassilon had divided up the sash, the rod, and the key, so the Chancellor would look after the key, the President was supposed to look for the key, but it was never supposed to have it because it would be too much power, it would make him a despot. So the Doctor and everybody, the Doctor and Barusa, after he had sent everybody else to his TARDIS, because Andred has a key to it, because he's the head guard and he has keys to the old TARDISes. They head off to the TARDIS. They get there with the Chancellor's special force field device protecting them. They get there, and then the Doctor barricades the TARDIS. End of episode 5. The Time Lords, the Sontarans are trying to break in. And you have your Lickspittle, Kurgan, or whatever his name is, Krender, the Castellan. He's really working with them, and they go. He helps the Sontarans get into the TARDIS. First, he does this weird wave thing, this wave force field that messes with the TARDIS, and the Doctor is then forced to pull the failsafe inside the TARDIS. Yep. The Doctor pulls the failsafe inside the TARDIS. Now the TARDIS is stuck there. It's stuck in its current form. And what are you doing? Flip that back. Give me a packet of honey.
Yes.
Why?
Because you're so sweet.
Thank you. Why did you turn the deal to faces?
So I can see myself.
That's distracting.
It is?
Yeah.
Every single production ever has like a monitor where you can see the...
Except us. Yeah. Well, I'm going to see me most of the time anyway. Alright. See myself. Alright.
Every time I see my bathroom mirror,
Who's that guy? He's ugly. Alright. Hey, don't come around here no more. Okay. So anyway, okay, now this, when I was a kid, this serial is not considered a classic. It's a bit blocky. The first 4 episodes they were originally meant to stand would have been fine. When you tack on those last 2 episodes with the Sontarans, it's not that great because the 5th episode drags a lot. The 6th episode, the pacing's really much better. But when I was a kid, you finally got to see much more of the interior of the TARDIS. And I love that, because you always knew it was there, but you had no idea how much was there. You have no clue how big it is or small it is.
Not like I imagined it.
Right. And I don't
Very
know.
rundown and dilapidated.
It looks like they're in some old industrial center before it's being torn down. But the Doctor had to pull a fail-safe. The Sontarans and... What's his name?
Storm.
No.
The commanders.
The Chancellor.
Castellan.
What's his name?
Castellan. Kellner.
Kellner.
That's his last name, I think.
So,
do we see the expanse of the TARDIS in the modern day Doctor Who? To where it's like just levels?
in the Matt Smith era.
Cool.
Yeah.
Does it look similar?
Not at all.
Okay. That's what I thought.
Not at all. There's a lot of CGI. It looks great.
Do we talk about the swimming pool?
Yeah. No. Not really.
Episode 1, there's a swimming pool in the TARDIS.
That
Leela's
swimming in.
with her skin.
And that's the first indication you get that you're going to get to see more of the TARDIS.
That's why her skins are lighter. It's because of the
she was swimming in the swimming
chlorine. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, the Doctor and Rodan and Leela are wandering down in the TARDIS, and they're going through all this stuff. And they go past the same point like 4 or 5 times.
Did you talk about Leela throwing her voice? Sontaran turns around.
No.
Oh.
Leela kills Sontaran with a good dive. She does a duck call thing or whatever. But throws her voice. The Sontaran turns around. She throws a knife into the vent in the back of the head. Gorgeous shot.
Leela is just
Kills him.
She nails
Giggity.
her last serial.
She does.
Yeah.
She's really good.
You see her independence and her instinctual huntress nature.
Her loyalty.
Her loyalty. Her trust for the Doctor is great. A great way to send off her character.
We haven't gotten that part.
Spoilers.
Yeah, spoilers.
Where are we?
Alright. So anyway, the Doctor, Leela, and Rodan are going down the TARDIS, and they're going through all these different levels, and a lot of them look the exact same, but they're going past the same places several times. The Doctor then gets Andred, K9, Rodan, and Leela into the workshop in the TARDIS, which is way down there. In the meantime, the Chancellor, Barusa, had been put in the Barusa suite, the Chancellor suite, which
was really the bathroom.
It was really the swimming pool.
Swimming pool.
So,
Leela thought that was a toilet, or
I have no idea.
she called it the bathroom.
Right, I guess you could take a bath in there. So, the Doctor then basically has K9 and Rodan stay, and he hypnotizes Rodan to follow K9's instructions to build a weapon, and he gives her the key. He says, "Give this key to no one, and except me. No, give this key to no one until I tell you otherwise."
Giving the key to an alien?
No, that was earlier when he did it with Leela.
Why do you think Barusa... So, they're being actively pursued by the Sontarans, right?
Right.
Time is of the essence.
Right.
Gallifrey is at stake.
Mm-hmm.
Why is Barusa and the Doctor...
Every universe is at stake.
Why is Barusa and the Doctor playing these little mind games and delaying... Why does Barusa delay so much in handing him the fake key and not showing him the key?
Because it'd be like handing somebody absolute power over everything.
Yes. Which would be better than handing it to the Sontarans.
Well, he figured the
warmongering-
Sontarans will never find it.
Okay. There's only so many keys in that room, though.
Well, who says it's in that room? The Doctor had to deduce that the Chancellor had it, but he didn't know who had it.
There's only so many keys in the Citadel.
Who says the key has to look like a key? Remember the keys they brought up to the TARDIS? It could have been anything.
They still look like keys.
No, a lot of it looked just like random plastic bits. All right. So anyway, the doctor ends up.
I just felt like the pussyfooting around was weird in such a high stakes situation. It's like
it is, but it's like a national treasure.
The Holy Grail.
This
is the Holy Grail,
which they do in Indiana Jones 3.
Yeah.
And Jones
that's what it reminded me of.
Right, and that's fine because you have to.
That was.
You have to work to discover the secrets. You can't just, I want the key. Here's the key. No, you got to work through it. Yeah. Yeah.
If I had a choice of handing you nuclear launch codes versus Kim Jong-un, I would probably give them to you right away.
Right, but
I'd just be like, yeah.
But you might believe that nobody should have the nuclear launch codes, and you just want to hold on to that secret for yourself, so you don't give it to anybody. Which is, I think, what Barusa did. I love the character Barusa.
He's a
great character. All right. So anyway, Rodan stays with K9, and K9 is giving her instructions because K9 linked into the Matrix earlier, has all this knowledge and information, and he has her build this weapon. In the meantime, the doctor, Leela, and Andred go off looking for Barusa. They find Barusa, but the Sontarans find them. There's a great scene of one of the Sontarans chasing after them, who jumps on a
sun
chair and almost falls. It wasn't planned. This was not a stunt that it was going to be done. It was just he couldn't see because of the helmet, and he did it, and then he almost falls.
Great impromptu acting. Because immediately after, he gets back up and starts chasing him again, and then there's the scripted moment where Andred throws another sun shear at him, and it knocks him over, and he trips and falls. And then I was about to laugh at the first one because it looked like a mistake, and then the second one trips him. I go, oh, maybe the first one was intentional then.
It wasn't. So
big blocky helmets.
Yeah. So eventually the doctor and they all get away. The whole point was to eat up time when they went for Barusa.
Who gets away? The doctor.
The doctor, Barusa, Andred, and Leela. They managed to get back to the workshop where Rodan, with K9 instructing her, has made the weapon. The doctor arms the weapon with the key. And then, right, and then the first Sontaran shows up, and the doctor just zaps him into oblivion. He just completely disintegrates all matter.
You talked about the antimatter gun. Why do they say that the antimatter gun is all you need to rule the universe? The doctor says,
it can completely wipe out matter as if it never existed. It's gone.
Yeah. I feel like there's a little more to conquering the galaxy.
This is all that's like explained.
One guy with a really cool gun, but it's still just one guy.
Yeah.
And also, what is the key of Rastalon?
It's the key.
That it dematerializes the. Why?
It's not explained.
Where
they
did it
didn't
come
bother
from?
to take time to do
Why
it.
does it exist?
All right.
Did you talk about his conversation with Barusa about the balances of power? That's why every president has to seek the key, because of any president.
Briefly. Yeah.
I thought that was great.
All right.
Great conversation.
It is a good conversation. Their conversations
They have several,
some of the best parts of the serial. Anyway, the doctor's like, okay, where's the last guy? And there's one last Sontaran, Score. Store.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently this part was slightly poorly edited.
A very Sontaran name.
Yeah, Store ends up going back to Panopticon. He's going to blow up the entire universe. The doctor catches up with him. The doctor's got the anti-mat gun. Store gives this big speech about...
By the way, it's like an elephant gun.
Yeah. I mean, if you got a gun that can destroy anything, there's no defense against it, then yeah. So
you think he could just make like a smaller form factor?
No. Alright. So Stor's talking about how he's going to destroy. You can't have if we can't have the Time Lord technology, nobody can. And the Doctor zaps him with the gun, and Stor gets knocked out of existence. The Doctor, apparently the gun explodes when this happens. Either it can only be used so much, or
how I saw it was Stor was about to set off this explosive charge.
Right.
And he does so. And in response, the Doctor dematerializes Stor and the explosion as the explosion is going off. So it's dematerializing this expanding explosion, which kind of inadmittedly dematerializes the gun as well, because it's dematerializing all this material as it's expanding. So there's this explosion.
So there's a mini explosion.
Dematerializes, which knocks out the Doctor, also dematerializes Stor and the gun, and it leaves the key on the floor.
Maybe. We don't know. But
that's how I interpreted it. The Doctor passes out and has memory loss because
amnesia. So he wakes up, he goes back to everybody, he's like, look, and they're like, did you beat him? He's like, yeah. It's like, well, you saved Gallifrey. He's like, I did what? I'm like, you don't remember your induction? No. Because they call him Lord President or Excellency.
Yeah.
And he's like, no. I'm like, you don't remember the Vardens? No. Or the Suntarans? No.
It's a Sasha Rascal.
Come on. He's like, oh, man. So that's not like you to joke, Barusa. So the Doctor has a bit of amnesia because of the explosion, the concussion.
And the balance is restored.
Right, because he forgot about the key. The Castellan has the Keegan.
But he's still the president.
He's still the president of the Time Lords. This will come back in the future.
Really? Okay.
The Sixth Doctor.
Okay, so not for a while.
No, sorry. The Fifth Doctor, so the next Doctor.
Oh, okay.
Comes back again, I believe, with the 11th Doctor? Or the 12th Doctor.
So not for a while.
Well, it comes back a few times.
Oh, okay.
It comes back a few times. So the Doctor gets ready to leave. He's like, come on, Leela, K9. And Leela's like, I'm not going. The Doctor's like, why not? And then she holds hands with Andrew.
We didn't really talk about their chemistry much, but
as decent chemistry.
The Doctor was getting ready for his inauguration. Andrew took her to the wardrobe to make up a costume.
Yeah.
There's some chemistry.
And there are times when they hold hands and stuff, but yeah, Andrid, Leela falls in love with Andrid. She decides to stay on Gallifrey. And K9 decides to stay there as well to protect Leela.
Mistress.
So, yeah, Mistress. So the Doctor leaves alone. And then he pulls out a box and it says K9 Mark II. And he just gives a big, big shit-eating grin at the camera.
Fourth wall break.
Yeah, another fourth wall break. And then the serial ends. Boom. So he's now president of the Time Lords. He saved Gallifrey a couple of times. He lost his companions, but he has multiple versions of K9, which comes into play later as well. And well, the good news is the K9 who's with him does not have all the knowledge of all the Time Lords, because that would be too powerful.
That makes sense.
Yeah, that K9 stays with Leela and the Time Lords. Okay, so what are your questions?
The planet of Gallifrey, right? We leave Leela and K9 on it. Do we ever see K9 Mark 1 and Leela again?
No.
Dang.
We do not see Leela again, and I do not believe we see K9 Mark 1 again.
Where do they go?
They stayed on Gallifrey.
Dang.
The Doctor ends up going through 3 or 4 renditions of K9.
What version is in Sarah Jane Adventures or K9 and Company?
It looks like Mark 3.
They look pretty similar.
They look exactly the same.
Okay.
It's the exact same piece. The BBC does not have the money to keep cycling through pieces back then. Another K9, I think. leaves with Romana 2, and then one he sends to the one he sends to Sarah Jane Smith and K-9 and Company, which then comes back in the new stuff.
Yes.
And then there's the one that just weirdly shows up in K-9, the third-party stuff, the Australian series, which we'll see eventually.
Well, it's official licensing, though, right?
Nope. Well, they officially licensed K-9.
Just K9.
Nothing
Just
else, because the owner of it, I think, was Australian.
It's the
guy
only
designed
X-Men
K9.
we could afford.
Exactly. All right. Anyway, fun serial. I enjoyed it. First 4 episodes were great. 5th, not so much. 6, I liked because you got to see so much of the inner workings of the TARDIS. Most people don't like the serial because of the extra 2 episodes tacked on. But I really did like seeing the inside the TARDIS and all that. I really did.
Going into this, you told me it was not really received as a classic episode.
No, yeah, it's not.
And I was very confused as to why for the first 4 episodes, because I was having a blast. I thought it was great. I loved the characters and the plot. I was very confused coming into the episode because I don't think it was kind of rearranged. But also, it worked to the episode's advantage because there's this intrigue and you're confused as to why the Doctor's acting the way it was. I had a blast. And then came episode 5 and I realized, okay, I see.
I see the problem.
Because it definitely hits a
low point, yeah.
Yeah, these 2
A
plots
nadir.
kind of collide, and the last 2 episodes feel a lot more thrown together. The sets in the TARDIS seem very
This is the
unplanned.
abandoned place we could film in.
And then the same set recycled again.
I love that. I think it's hilarious.
It
but
is
yeah.
fun. They're very creative about it, but it kind of, there's a lot of filler and it kind of feels drawn out.
Yes,
But
but even
then-
though just for 2 episodes,
Yeah.
there's a lot of filler and it's really drawn out.
But a lot of episode 6 almost makes up for episode 5 because episode 6 was pretty good, I thought. So
Yeah,
overall, I really enjoyed the serial. I thought it was great.
yeah, it's just
I love the characters.
You can tell what's tacked on.
Yeah,
And
there's a bit of a tonal shift, which is a bit jarring, but overall still incredibly enjoyable. I like the
you remember the name of the guy who wrote it? Like David Agnew or something.
Okay.
It's a pseudonym because there were 2 authors who wrote it, and they were regular writers. And rather than use this and this person, they use it as a pseudonym because I think one wrote the main part and the other wrote the extra parts, and neither of them wanted their name attached to it because of how
It was so well
dysfunctional it was. Yeah,
That's so bizarre.
yeah.
That's fun. I like it. Where do you find stuff like that out? Do you just read the Wikipedia articles?
I read the Doctor Who forums. Sometimes I watch the special features.
What are the Doctor Who forums? Is that on Reddit or
My favorite is Digital Spy.
Digital Spy? Okay.
There's also Gallifrey Base, Reddit, and other places. But the one I I actually actively post is Digital Spy.
You actively post?
I actively post.
I'm gonna go
a
read
lot.
your posts. Are you well received on the forums?
Yes and no. I'm well
50-50.
received by those who think like I do, that Whittaker sucks and Chibnall sucks. But then you've got a whole bunch of people like, she's awesome, he's awesome, no matter what. And,
Is that divide like 50-50 or?
well, yes and no. The problem is a lot of people who think the way I do have given up on the show and
So
given
there's
up
a
on the
louder
forums
minority.
because they didn't like being yelled at in the forums. And yeah,
I'm gonna go creep on some of your posts and read about your innermost Doctor Who thoughts.
no,
I can't see your posts.
spoilers.
Oh, you post about spoilers. Dang.
Yeah, spoilers come up all the time.
All right. I'll have to read about it some other time.
You have to wait till we're caught up.
So, you said a very nostalgic hit for you was seeing more of the interior of the TARDIS.
Yes.
That's something you very much enjoyed watching.
And
the
I was
first
always so
time.
fascinated about the rest of the
Fascinated by it.
TARDIS. Yeah.
Do you have a favorite room in the TARDIS? And while you think about that answer, I'll give you my answer. My favorite room in the TARDIS is the Botanical Garden because it begs the question: if the
Doctor gets lost in his own TARDIS constantly. Who is watering and upkeeping these plants? And they do look overgrown, which means they're not so much being trimmed and nurtured in the garden as just growing wildly and just being consistently watered. And I think they're being watered by the condensation, which helps concrete the canonization of the condensation in the Marco Polo
Well,
episode.
I think it's more the humidity coming off the pool, but no, it's the TARDIS that does it.
Yeah.
The TARDIS
so it's
does
the
all
TARDIS that did the condensation.
Right, but I mean, we didn't even mention the Venus flytrap that ate the one
So,
tried to eat the one
There's so
Centauri.
many like offshoot moments which are just so bizarre, and they kind of just scrapped it together to kind of fill out these last 2 episodes. So we kind of skipped over several things, but there's a lot of because they're not really wrapped in the plot of it. So there's just a few creative shots that they use to fill the time, like them returning to the same set over and over again as he's lost in the TARDIS.
I love that part. Freaking love that part.
So, what, do you have a favorite room in the TARDIS?
Capaldi's control room.
The rest of the wooden one.
No.
Oh wait, I haven't seen.
Capaldi's the
that
12th Doctor.
I really like the older rustic wooden control room that
The 4th Doctor. Yeah.
warped. Yeah.
Yeah. No, wait till we get to Capaldi's control room.
Really cool.
Friggin' gorgeous. Love it. Love it.
So, what was my next question? That's my next question. What was my next question? Oh, we see. So there's not a whole lot of times where we see the TARDIS sustain damage, other than like the sensorites burning through and removing the locking mechanism from the door of the
Right.
TARDIS. Because the TARDIS, at least on the outside, is pretty impregnable. This is very there's force fields and all sorts of defense
Right.
mechanisms.
Genghis Khan tried to get in once. Yeah.
But this is one of the rare moments where we see villains on the inside of the TARDIS. And even when villains make it into the TARDIS, there's usually some sort of field that keeps them at bay. Like when Android walks in and his staser doesn't work because of the so-and-so
Right.
field.
Well, this is because the Doctor was forced by that wave thing that Kellner, whatever his name, sent out.
Yeah,
Kellner. When he,
Castellan Killer.
yeah, when he sent out that wave thing, it forced the Doctor to pull the failsafe on the TARDIS and stabilize it. When he did that, it meant that it could be entered, damaged, everything. You know?
And they had a key to it.
Yes,
Because they're on Gallifrey. And I really like... So, Castellan Kellner is a character that's just terrible. Awful, horrible, traitorous person.
Tongue.
And I loved it. He was so good at it.
He was well portrayed.
And my favorite part was when they're kind of going head to head, you know, as Kellner's trying to fix and make the hole bigger and the shield so the invading fleet can come in, but he can't. And then they get into the TARDIS, and then the Doctor set up the bio berater to where they can't track their biosignature.
Correct, yeah.
And then Castellan, you know, shuts that mechanism. I really love this back and forth of these two Time Lords, which is something we haven't really seen since the Master. So I thought
Correct, yeah.
Kellner was a fantastic character.
And before that, the monk.
Yeah, that kind of back and forth between these two peers. They're both very intelligent, and peers is the wrong word. I really like their dynamic. I love Barusa. I thought Leela, her whole character arc shined in a whole new way. You kind of see the culmination of her character traits and her really stepping out and using every skill to her advantage. I liked Rodan. I like Andred. All solid characters.
Yeah. And for Leela, in classic Who fashion, she leaves the Doctor because she falls in love, you know? Very much classic Who, except for Dodo. Goodbye. All right.
yeah.
All right. Also, one thing we didn't mention, but in the 6th episode,
Mm-hmm.
they're looking for a sub-power station, and it's in an art gallery.
To shut down the bio.
Just shut down the bio dampener. And it's funny because the art gallery is really cool. They got a Venus de Milo there and all this other stuff. And there's a little switch in the statue that makes all the art disappear, and then you can find it. I love that art gallery. It's like, this is a really cool art gallery.
It was cool.
It
Even Castellan looks at the painting and goes, "That's beautiful."
That's beautiful, yeah.
Even though it's like
I wish there was
a
some
hologram or something.
Right. And it was a hologram, but I wish there were some more like some Van Goghs in there, because that would have played great into the Vincent the Doctor coming
That
up.
would be a cool
Oh my gosh.
foreshadowing callback thing.
Oh, wait till we get to the 50th anniversary episode. You're gonna love it.
I also liked exploring the Citadel in Gallifrey and just seeing like a random modern art piece hanging on the wall.
And you figured the Citadel would be big in these big hallways. No, little tiny hallways that look like a really weird children's daycare center, you know?
The art direction is so bizarre. It's very sterile and uniform, and then the next room is totally colorful and bizarre.
And you don't have a title on the door like Chancellor's office. It's just like, yeah, here's a door you can't even see, but I know it's
random door.
Yeah, it
looks like a janitor's closet you're walking into.
It's the BBC trying to make a big story without CGI on a small budget, and they managed to pull it off fairly well.
Yes.
As they usually did.
The sets are usually the consistent drawback on most Doctor Who serials. The characters are great, writing is great.
Yeah.
Some sets are really beautiful, or at least, some parts of some serials, the sets they use are beautiful. In most cases, you really see the budget drawbacks.
But the good news is they already have the Panopticon from the Deadly Assassin they could reuse. So that worked out.
That was still grandiose and large scale set.
It was the only part of Gallifrey that was.
And everything else was kind of just like a hallway.
Little tiny
random set bits that they grabbed from some warehouse and threw in to decorate it.
It looked a lot like a laser tag field, didn't it?
It did. Oddly colorful in places. It was bizarre. It was a trip, and I thought they pulled it off pretty well. I thought it was interesting. It was fun.
No, they did.
What was my next question? It was very Scooby-Doo-esque. Did you talk about how they're trying to find each other in the TARDIS? And they're pulling back curtains, and they're
I didn't talk about the curtain part, but I did talk about they gotta go here, they gotta get this guy, they gotta go, and it was all a fill-up time.
There was one really bizarre point where they're running away from the Sontarans, and they're all in this room, and the Doctor specifically says, pick a door and go through it. So they go through that one, and that one, and they all walk through the door and converge in the same room, which is so... It's like, what is the point of that?
Very Matrixy.
They all go through different rooms and end up in the same room. It's very bizarre, and it's creative. It's an artistic thing. They got very creative with the challenges they were presented, and the budgetary limits. So speaking of the TARDIS and the bizarre things that happens in the TARDIS, one thing that stood out to me is again, we talked about how the TARDIS is very impregnable. So many defenses and shields. And even when the Doctor lets them into the control room, he usually has some field or time loop. This is the first time we really see the Doctor on the back foot in his own home field advantage, his home base. And you see the TARDIS sustaining damage internally as like Sontarans are breaking down doors, which is very unique. That's not really something we've seen before.
Well, yeah, but once again, like I said, the TARDIS had been frozen into that normal state. Pulled up the failsafe because he was forced to by that wave that Castellan sent out.
Yeah, that's great. I like them breaking out of what's normal and what's comfortable, which are these things that are set in place that the story, the script writers can always rely on. It's like, well, this is always a home base. You can always have a safe space here. So it's kind of refreshing to see them break out of that mold and say, what if, the TARDIS is actively being invaded? And we never knew it was so big before. It is bigger on the inside, but we just never
knew how big.
How
And this,
big.
this we
Shows off.
we get to see some more during the 5th Doctor, but it really gets shown off during the 11th Doctor, during Matt Smith.
So my last thing is, of course, I've always been very critical of the Doctor because, I mean, how could you not when you have this Superman-esque character and you have Batman asking, how can we trust someone with so much power? How can we just trust that their character is going to be good? They're going to be incorruptible. So I'm always questioning the motivations of the Doctor, and when he's snappy, or when he treats people cruelly, or when he kills someone, it's like, what is his true motivation? Is he this incorruptible pinnacle of justice, or just this fun, child-hearted adventurer? And you see these different aspects of his character, and I think this was summed up very well when Leela calls him excitable. He's someone who's pure and good intention, but is susceptible to emotion, and he's excitable. He's snappy. He can be irritable. He can be mean and cruel in certain situations, and then this kind of culminates in this one really poetic, sad moment where, again, we've seen the Doctor depart drastically with multiple companions, and we kind of feel that heartbreak, and he gives these dialogues about, I'm all alone again, and he hates goodbyes. So this time, the Doctor's leaving Gallifrey. He's going back on his adventures, and he expects Leela and K9 to go with him as companions, and Leela says, no, I'm staying here, and he accepts that because he sees that, you know, they have feelings for Indrid. So he says, come on, K9, and K9 says, no, I'm also staying here. And the Doctor, we sense this, like, kind of panic or fear to where he tries to get out of there as soon as possible. And
The Doctor hates goodbye.
She says, I'll miss you, yeah, and he says, he just kind of smiles and nods.
And he closes the door.
And he closes the door, and immediately after the door closes and he turns around, we just see this crushed look in his face. And he immediately resorts to kind of dehumanizing Leela. Or that's how it felt to me, because he says, I'll miss you too, Savage. And it's like he's acknowledging that he...
Well, no, but he's saying that because he called her that when they first met.
Yeah, it's
so he's going back to his nickname for her.
But then again, we see him constructing his new companion, K9 Mark II. Yeah. And I just love how in-depth this character is, the Doctor. And we have this range of emotions, and he's not this perfect person, but we see him, you know, be a good character, but is also kind of subject to his emotions in these different ways. And
he has good days, he has bad days, like we all do.
Yeah. I think it's interesting. I like it. I think he does bad things sometimes. But
well, yeah. Any other questions?
So mostly we cover the questions while doing the recap. I like doing it that way because it kind of breaks up the plot summary with the questions, and it gives us a little bit of variety. So yeah, we cover all of my questions.
All right. Next time we will be starting the Key of Time, the 17th season.
Next season.
Wait, hold on.
Of our podcast.
The 16th season.
Our podcast. How many years?
We're hitting 4 years.
This is
in June or July. I think July.
We'll be starting.
We'll hit 4 years.
We'll be starting our 4th season of
100 episodes pretty soon.
Hey.
Yeah. So we'll be going to the Key of Time. It'll be fun. We will have a great time. We'll be starting in a few weeks, and we'll see you there.
Yeah. Small hiatus. We'll see you on the 4th season of the Drunk Doctor Who podcast. This is our podcast season.
Yeah, don't worry about that. We just do it all year round, like my wife and I. All right. See you next time, guys. Thanks for coming.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
What is going on here? Did the night move? Not yet. Not yet.
Bye. Bye.
This is the worst part.